Tejo pushed through the large glass doors of the Nexus Galactic Academy. The morning air felt different here on Station Prime, recycled and clean but missing the earth smell he remembered from home. He walked down the long hallway, his footsteps echoing against the metal floors. Around him, students from dozens of different worlds moved between classes. A group of tall, blue-skinned Altarians glided past him without looking down. Their long necks turned as they spoke in their musical language. Tejo had been here for 3 months now, but he still felt small next to most of his classmates. Humans were new to this whole galactic community thing. Most other species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. He reached classroom 7 Beta and stopped outside the door. Through the transparent wall, he could see other students already sitting at their desks. His stomach felt tight. Xenobiology class was always uncomfortable. Not because the subject was hard, but because of how the other students looked at him. Tejo took a deep breath and walked inside. The classroom was shaped like a bowl, with rows of seats going down toward a central area where Professor Kethvar usually stood. The professor was a Nexari, with gray skin that looked like stone and forearms that moved in smooth patterns when he talked. "Ah, our human student arrives," Professor Kethvar said without looking up from his datapad. "Please take your seat quickly. We have an important demonstration today." Tejo walked to his usual spot in the middle row. As he sat down, he noticed Mireille watching him from 3 seats over. She was Velkan, and her crystalline skin caught the light from the ceiling panels. Her people were warriors, and she never let anyone forget it. Her skin could change color based on her mood, and right now it had a slight red glow that meant she was annoyed. "I still do not understand why humans are allowed in advanced classes," Mireille said to her friend Hana, but loud enough for Tejo to hear. "They only joined the Galactic Union 5 years ago. My people have been members for over 1,000 years. Hana nodded. She was also Velkan, but smaller than Mireille. "My father says humans are still basically animals. They fight wars on their own planet. They eat other creatures from their world." Tejo tried to ignore them. He had heard this kind of talk before. He opened his datapad and started reading about today's lesson. Behind him, he heard the deep voice of Dongwu. "At least they are better than the Whisperlings," Dongwu said. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. He was Thrakari, which meant he was almost 3 meters tall and covered in thick, dark fur. His people came from a world with heavy gravity, so they were incredibly strong. "Those little creatures are pathetic. They jump at shadows." "The Whisperlings are a prey species," said Yujin from the front row. She was Silani with pale green skin and large black eyes. Her people were known for being very smart, but also very quiet. "It is not their fault they evolved to be afraid. Fear keeps them alive." "Fear makes them weak," Mireille said. Her crystalline skin flashed brighter red. "Strong species survive. Weak species serve the strong. That is the natural order." Professor Kethvar clapped his 4 hands together. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. "Enough discussion. Today we will observe this natural order in action." He moved to the center of the classroom where a large metal table sat empty. With 2 of his hands, he activated a control panel. The air above the table started to shimmer and glow. Slowly, a containment field formed into a clear box about 2 meters wide. "Today, class, we will observe predator and prey relationships through direct study," the professor said. His voice carried easily through the room. "We will examine fear responses, survival instincts, and the natural hierarchy that exists between different species." Tejo felt something cold move through his stomach. He did not like where this was going. "I have arranged for a live specimen to join us," Professor Kethvar continued. "This will allow you to observe authentic behavioral patterns rather than simply reading about them in textbooks." A door opened at the back of the classroom that Tejo had never noticed before. 2 security guards in dark uniforms walked in. Between them, they carried a small transport cage. Whatever was inside was making soft, scared sounds. "Excellent," Mireille whispered. Her skin was now glowing bright with excitement. Finally, something interesting. The guards placed the cage next to the professor's table. Through the bars, Tejo could see movement, but the creature inside was pressed against the far corner, trying to stay hidden. "Our subject today is a Whisperling," Professor Kethvar announced. "As you know, Whisperlings are classified as a level 5 prey species. They possess empathic abilities that allow them to sense emotions and intentions from other beings. This makes them excellent subjects for studying fear responses." The professor opened the transport cage with one hand while adjusting the containment field with another. A small creature stumbled out, immediately pressing itself against the far wall of the energy barrier. Taeho had never seen a whisperling in person before. It was about the size of a house cat, but it stood on two legs like a person. Its fur was soft brown and it had a long bushy tail. Its face looked almost human, but with a small snout and large dark eyes that seemed too big for its head. Those eyes were filled with pure terror. "Meet Jinwoo," the professor said. He volunteered for this demonstration. Taeho doubted that was true. The creature, Jinwoo, was shaking so hard he could barely stand. His large eyes darted around the room, looking at all the students staring down at him. When his gaze passed over the Velkans and Thrakari, he made small, frightened sounds. "As you can see," Professor Kethvar continued, "Jinwoo's empathic abilities are already detecting the predatory nature of many species in this room. His fear response is completely natural and appropriate." Around the classroom, students leaned forward in their seats. Some were taking notes, but others just watched with interest, like they were at some kind of entertainment show. Taeho looked at Jinwoo and felt sick. This was not education. This was cruelty. The small whisperling continued to shake, his eyes now filled with tears. He pressed himself harder against the energy barrier, as if he could somehow escape through it. His small hands were clenched into fists and his breathing was fast and shallow. "Now then," Professor Kethvar said, "let us begin our observation." Professor Kethvar walked around the containment field, his four hands moving as he spoke. The whisperling species developed empathic abilities as a survival mechanism. They can sense the emotional state and intentions of other beings within a 50-meter radius. Jinwoo pressed himself against the energy barrier, his small body shaking. His large dark eyes moved from student to student, and each time his gaze landed on someone new, he made a soft whimpering sound. This ability, the professor continued, allows them to detect predators before visual contact is made. However, as you can observe, this same ability becomes a source of extreme distress when they are surrounded by multiple predatory species. Taeho watched Jinwoo and felt his chest tighten. The small creature looked terrified. His breathing was so fast that Taeho worried he might pass out. Every few seconds, Jinwoo would press his small hands against the energy field, as if testing whether he could somehow break through. "Who can tell me what emotional responses Jinwoo is detecting right now?" Professor Kethvar asked the class. Several hands went up. The professor pointed to a student in the back row. "Kwanho?" Kwanho was Nexari like the professor, with the same gray, stone-like skin. "He is sensing our natural predatory instincts, Professor. Even though we are not hunting, our species carry those emotions as part of our basic nature." "Excellent observation," Professor Kethvar said. "Jinwoo cannot distinguish between active hunting intent and passive predatory nature. To his empathic senses, this entire room feels like a gathering of creatures that want to harm him." Mireille raised her hand. "Professor, may we observe his responses more closely? It would be educational to see how his fear changes based on proximity to different species." "An excellent suggestion, Mireille," the professor said. "That will be the next phase of our demonstration." Professor Kethvar moved to his control panel and began adjusting settings. "I am going to lower the containment field partially. This will allow students to approach Jinwoo while maintaining safety protocols. The field will still prevent him from escaping, but you will be able to observe his reactions without barrier interference." The energy field flickered and changed. Instead of a complete box, it now formed a barrier only around the bottom half of the table. Jinwoo could no longer press against the walls, but he was still trapped in the space. "Now then," the professor said, "who would like to be first?" Mireille stood up immediately. Her crystalline skin began to glow brighter, shifting from red to a deep orange color. "I volunteer, Professor." She walked down the steps toward the demonstration area. As she got closer, Jinwoo's whimpering became louder. The small whisperling backed away from her as far as the containment field would allow. "Observe how his fear response intensifies," Professor Kethvar said. "Mireille's Velkan physiology naturally produces aggressive pheromones. Her species evolved as apex predators." Mireille stood right next to the table now. Her skin was glowing bright orange and her eyes were fixed on Jinwoo. She was not doing anything threatening, just standing and watching, but Jinwoo acted like she was about to attack him. "Fascinating," Mireille said. She leaned closer to get a better look. "Look how his pupils are dilated, and his breathing rate has increased even more. Jinwoo made a sound that was almost like a scream. He fell to his knees in the center of the containment area, covering his head with his small hands. Excellent data, Professor Kethvar said, making notes on his datapad. Who would like to observe next? Dongwoo stood up. The massive Thrakari student walked down to join Mirai. As soon as Jinwoo saw him, the Whisperling's reaction became even worse. He curled up into a ball, making high-pitched sounds of pure terror. Interesting, Dongwoo said in his rumbling voice. He is more afraid of me than of Mirai. Is this because of my size? Partially, the professor explained, but also because Thrakari evolved as pursuit predators. Your species has very strong hunting instincts, even stronger than the Velkans. Jinwoo can sense this through his empathic abilities. More students began to come down from their seats. Each new arrival made Jinwoo's condition worse. Soon there were 8 students standing around the table, representing 6 different species. All of them were classified as predatory or apex predatory species. Jinwoo was no longer making sounds. He had curled up so tightly that he looked like a small brown ball. His whole body was shaking, and Taeho could see that he was crying. Notice how his empathic overload has caused him to shut down emotionally, Professor Kethvar said. This is a common response when Whisperlings are exposed to multiple predatory auras simultaneously. His mind is trying to protect itself by blocking input. Hana laughed. He looked so pathetic. No wonder his species never developed technology. They spend all their time being afraid. Actually, Yujin said from her seat, Whisperlings have developed very advanced biotechnology. They grow their cities instead of building them. They just do not make weapons because their culture values peace. Peace is weakness, Mirai said. Her skin was now glowing so brightly that it cast orange light on Jinwoo's fur. Strong species take what they need. Weak species get taken from. Taeho had been silent during the whole demonstration, but now he could not stay quiet anymore. This is not education, he said. This is torture. The students around the table turned to look at him. Professor Kethvar raised one of his eyebrows. Excuse me, Taeho, the professor said. Do you have a scientific objection to our methodology? I have a moral objection, Taeho said. He stood up from his seat. Look at him. He is terrified. You are causing him pain for no reason, Mirai laughed. Humans, she said to the other students. They think emotions matter more than learning. They do matter more than learning, Taeho said. He started walking down toward the demonstration area. He is a person, not a laboratory animal. Taeho, Professor Kethvar said. Please return to your seat. You are disrupting the lesson. Good, Taeho said. It should be disrupted. As he got closer to the table, something strange happened. Jinwoo uncurled slightly and looked up. His large dark eyes focused on Taeho and his expression changed. The pure terror was still there, but now there was something else. Confusion, maybe. Or hope. Interesting, Yujin said from her seat. His empathic reading of the human is different. Professor Kethvar moved closer to observe. Indeed, Jinwoo's fear response has decreased since Taeho approached. This is highly unusual. Taeho stopped next to the table. Jinwoo was looking directly at him now, his head tilted slightly to one side. The Whisperling's breathing was still fast, but not as panicked as before. Hello, Taeho said softly. I am sorry they are scaring you. Jinwoo blinked. Then, to everyone's surprise, he stood up. He was still shaking, but he took a small step toward Taeho. This is unprecedented, Professor Kethvar said. Whisperlings do not approach unknown bipedal species. Their instincts tell them that all large, two-legged creatures are predators. Maybe, Taeho said, looking down at Jinwoo. He can tell that I do not want to hurt him. Mirai snorted. Humans are predators too. You eat meat. You have forward-facing eyes. You hunt, yes, Taeho said, but we also protect things that cannot protect themselves. Jinwoo took another step forward. Now he was standing right at the edge of the containment field, as close to Taeho as he could get. He reached out one small hand and pressed it against the energy barrier. Fascinating, the professor murmured, making rapid notes. This behavior has never been documented before. Jinwoo pressed his small hand against the energy barrier that separated him from Taeho. His large dark eyes were still filled with tears, but they were focused entirely on the human student. For the first time since the demonstration began, he was not looking around in terror at the other students. This is remarkable, Professor Kethvar said, moving closer with his datapad. Jinwoo is showing completely different behavioral patterns in response to the human student. Taeho knelt down so he was at eye level with Jinwoo. "It is okay," he said softly. "I know you are scared." Jinwoo tilted his small head to one side, studying Taeho's face. His breathing was still fast, but not the panicked gasping from before. Slowly, he placed his other hand against the barrier as well. "Professor," Mireille said, her crystalline skin still glowing orange with predatory energy. "Perhaps we should continue the demonstration. This interruption is preventing us from gathering proper data." "Actually," Professor Kethavar said, "this is providing us with extremely valuable data. We are observing something that has never been recorded before." Dongwoo leaned his massive frame over the table to get a better look. As soon as his shadow fell across Jinwoo, the Whisperling flinched and pressed himself closer to the barrier near Taeho. "He still fears the rest of us," Dongwoo observed. "But not the human, why?" Yujin spoke up from her seat in the front row. "Whisperling empathic abilities are extremely accurate. They can sense not just species type, but individual emotional patterns. Perhaps the human's emotional signature is different from what Jinwoo expects." "Different how?" Hana asked. "I do not know," Yujin admitted. "But Jinwoo's responses suggest he is sensing something in Taeho that he does not sense in the rest of us." Professor Kethvar made more notes. "We should test this hypothesis. I am going to increase the demonstration intensity to see if the human's presence continues to provide a calming effect." Taeho looked up sharply. "What do you mean, increase the intensity?" "I am going to have more students approach," the professor said. "We need to see if Jinwoo's reaction to you remains consistent under increased stress." "No," Taeho said firmly. "Look at him. He is already terrified. Do not make it worse." "This is a scientific investigation," Professor Kethvar said. "Your emotional attachment to the subject is interfering with proper methodology." "My emotional attachment?" Taeho stood up, anger clear in his voice. "He is not a subject. He is a person who is scared and alone." 3 more students had come down from their seats while Taeho was arguing with the professor. They formed a tighter circle around the table. Jinwoo saw them approaching and began to make the high-pitched whimpering sounds again. "Perfect," Professor Kethvar said. "Now we can observe comparative responses." But something was wrong with the containment field. As more students gathered around the table, their combined presence was affecting the energy barrier. The field began to flicker and fluctuate. "Professor," Yujin called out, "the containment field is becoming unstable." Professor Kethavar looked at his control panel with alarm. "The empathic resonance is interfering with the field generators," he said. "Jinwoo's fear response is too intense." The energy barrier flickered again, more severely this time. Jinwoo was pressed against it, still reaching toward Taeho, when the field suddenly failed completely. For a moment, everyone froze. Jinwoo was free. Every student in the room expected him to run for the door. That was what Whisperlings did when they escaped containment. They ran as far and as fast as they could, but Jinwoo did not run toward the door. Instead, with a burst of desperate energy, he leaped from the table directly toward Taeho. His small body collided with the human student's legs, and his arms wrapped around Taeho's leg like he was clinging to a life preserver. "Help," Jinwoo said in broken galactic standard. His voice was small and scared, but everyone in the room could hear him clearly. "Please help, they hurt. You different. You safe." The classroom fell completely silent. Even Professor Kethvar stopped making notes and stared. Mireille was the first to speak. "That is impossible," she said. "Whisperlings do not approach bipedal species, ever. It goes against every instinct they have." "But he is doing it," Hana said. Her voice filled with wonder. Jinwoo pressed his face against Taeho's leg and continued speaking in his halting galactic standard. "Sense you. Not like them. Not want hurt, want protect." Taeho looked down at the small creature clinging to him. Jinwoo's empathic abilities had somehow sensed something in Taeho that was different from all the other students. Something that made him feel safe instead of afraid. "It is okay," Taeho said gently. He reached down and carefully placed his hand on Jinwoo's head. "You are safe now." Jinwoo looked up at him with those large, dark eyes. For the first time since the demonstration began, he was not shaking with fear. "This is unprecedented," Professor Kethvar said. "In over 200 years of documented Whisperling behavior, nothing like this has ever been recorded." "Maybe," Yujin said quietly. "We do not understand humans as well as we thought we did." Dongwoo leaned back, his massive form no longer looming over the table. What is the human doing differently? He is still a predator species. His people fight wars, they hunt, they kill. Yes, Taeho said, still gently stroking Jinwoo's head. But we also do something else. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. All species protect their own young, Mireille said, though her crystalline skin had dimmed to a softer orange. Not just our own, Taeho said. We protect others, even when they are not related to us, even when they are completely different species. Jinwoo made a soft sound that might have been agreement. He was still holding on to Taeho's leg, but he was no longer trembling. This emotional signature, Yujin said. This protectiveness toward other species. Perhaps this is what Jinwoo is sensing. Perhaps this is why he is not afraid. Professor Kethvar was making rapid notes again. We need to test this hypothesis, he said. Jinwoo, please return to the containment area so we can continue the demonstration. No, Taeho said firmly. Everyone looked at him in surprise. Excuse me? Professor Kethvar said. I said no, Taeho repeated. He asked me for help. He asked me for protection. I am not going to hand him back to you so you can terrorize him some more. Taeho, the professor said, this is a scientific demonstration. Jinwoo is here for educational purposes. Did he volunteer for this? Taeho asked. Did he agree to be brought here and scared for your education? Professor Kethvar did not answer immediately. I thought not, Taeho said. He is not a laboratory animal. He is a person with feelings and rights. Rights? Mireille laughed. He is a prey species. They do not have the same rights as predator species. According to who? Taeho asked. According to the Galactic Accords, Professor Kethvar said. Species are classified based on their evolutionary development and social complexity. And who decided on those classifications? Taeho asked. Let me guess. The predator species. The room was quiet again. Jinwoo had stopped making any sound at all. He was just holding on to Taeho and listening to the conversation. The classifications are based on scientific criteria, Professor Kethvar said, but he sounded less certain than before. Scientific criteria created by species who benefit from those classifications, Taeho said. How convenient. He looked down at Jinwoo, who was looking back up at him with trust in his large dark eyes. He stays with me, Taeho said. If you want to continue your demonstration, you can do it without him. Professor Kethvar put down his datapad and crossed his forearms. Taeho, you are disrupting an approved academic exercise. Jinwoo must return to the containment area immediately. No, Taeho said again. He could feel Jinwoo's small hands gripping his leg tighter. He came to me for help. I am not going to abandon him. This is ridiculous, Mireille said. Her crystalline skin flared brighter with anger. You are just another predator species. Why should a whisperling trust you more than us? Taeho looked around the room at all the alien faces staring at him. Most looked confused or annoyed. A few looked curious. Jinwoo pressed closer to his leg. Maybe because I do not see him as prey, Taeho said. What do you see him as? Dongwoo asked. The massive Thrakari student leaned forward, genuinely interested in the answer. Taeho looked down at Jinwoo, who was still clinging to him. The small whisperling's large dark eyes were watching the conversation carefully, even though he probably did not understand all the words. I see him as someone who needs help, Taeho said. Someone who is scared and alone and asking for protection. But you do not even know him, Hana said. He is not your species. He is not your responsibility. He does not have to be, Taeho said. When someone needs help, you help them. It does not matter if they are the same species as you. Yujin spoke up from her seat in the front row. This is interesting. Yujin's empathic readings have been consistent. He senses something in Taeho that is different from the rest of us. Different how? Professor Kethvar asked, picking up his datapad again. I cannot be certain without proper testing equipment, Yujin said. But Jinwoo seems to sense protective intent instead of predatory intent. This should not be possible with a predator species. Humans are predator species, Mireille insisted. They have forward-facing eyes. They eat meat. They have weapons. Yes, Taeho said. We can be predators, but we can also be protectors. All species protect their young, Dongwoo said. Not just our young, Taeho explained. We protect others, even strangers, even different species. Professor Kethvar was taking notes rapidly. Can you elaborate on this concept? Taeho thought for a moment. On my world, humans often risk their own lives to save animals. We have people who spend their whole lives protecting creatures that cannot protect themselves. We call them conservationists, wildlife protectors, animal rescue workers. But those animals provide no benefit to humans, Mireille said. Why would you protect something that gives you nothing in return? Because it is the right thing to do, Tejo said simply. The room was quiet for a moment. Several students exchanged glances with each other. This is inefficient, Quanho said. Resources spent protecting non-beneficial species could be used for more important purposes. Like what? Tejo asked. Expanding territory, acquiring resources. Strengthening your own species, Quanho said, as if it were obvious. What good is being strong if you use that strength to hurt others? Tejo asked. Jinwoo made a soft sound and looked up at Tejo. He seemed to understand that Tejo was defending him, even if he could not follow all the words. Professor Kethvar walked closer to them. Jinwoo, he said, you must return to the demonstration area. This behavior is highly irregular. Jinwoo shrank back against Tejo's leg and shook his head. No, he said in his small voice. Stay with Safe One. Stay with Protector. Protector, the professor repeated. Jinwoo, humans are classified as a predator species. They are not protectors. You wrong, Jinwoo said, his broken galactic standard becoming more confident. Sense him. Feel his heart. Not like others. Not want hurt, want keep safe. Yujin leaned forward in her seat. Professor, perhaps we should consider that our species classifications might be incomplete. What do you mean? The professor asked. We classify species as predator, prey, or neutral based on their evolutionary development and current behavior, Yujin said. But perhaps humans represent something we have not seen before. Which is what? A species that evolved as predators but chose to become protectors, Yujin said. Mireille laughed harshly. That is impossible. You cannot change what evolution made you. Cannot you? Tejo asked. Your people evolved as warriors, but you are here in a classroom learning instead of fighting. Dongwu's people evolved as hunters, but he studies science. Why is it impossible that humans evolved as predators but chose to become something else? Because predators take, Mireille said. That is what we do. We take territory, resources, and weaker species serve us. And what if we decided not to take? Tejo asked. What if we decided to give instead? Give what? Protection, help, safety. Tejo gestured down at Jinwoo. He is not my species. Helping him gives me no advantage. But he asked for help, so I'm helping him. Professor Kethvar was writing notes furiously. This could represent a new evolutionary pathway, he said. A predator species that developed empathy and protective instincts toward other species. But that makes no evolutionary sense, Dongwu said. Protecting other species takes resources away from your own. Does it? Tejo asked. On my world, humans and many animal species live together peacefully. We protect them, and they make our world more beautiful and balanced. Everyone benefits, not mutualism, Yujin said suddenly. Humans have developed a form of cross-species mutualism. What is that? Hana asked. It is when different species help each other for mutual benefit, Yujin explained. But this is different. This appears to be protection without expectation of return benefit. Jinwoo tugged on Tejo's clothes and pointed toward the door. Leave now? He asked hopefully. Go safe place? Professor Kethvar stepped forward. Jinwoo cannot leave. He is part of an official academic demonstration. Did he sign any paperwork agreeing to this? Tejo asked. Prey species do not sign paperwork, the professor said. They are assigned to educational programs by the Galactic Education Authority. Assigned without their consent, Tejo said. That sounds like kidnapping to me. It is not kidnapping, Mireille said. It is proper use of inferior species for educational advancement of superior species. Superior according to who? Tejo asked. According to the natural order, Mireille said. Strong species rule. Weak species serve. And if the weak species refuse to serve, then they are forced to serve, Mireille said as if it were obvious. Tejo looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some nodded in agreement with Mireille. Others looked uncomfortable. A few looked thoughtful. That is not natural order, Tejo said. That is tyranny. Tyranny? Professor Kethvar asked. Using strength to force others to do what you want, Tejo explained. On my world, we learned that just because you can force someone to do something does not mean you should. But if you have the power, why would you not use it? Dongwu asked. Because power should be used to protect, not to control, Taeho said. Jinwoo looked up at him with something like wonder in his large eyes. Yes, he said softly. Protect, not control. The small whisperling stood up straighter, still holding on to Taeho but no longer cowering in fear. For the first time since the demonstration began, he looked directly at the other students instead of hiding from them. This human, Jinwoo said in his halting galactic standard, has strong heart, protector heart, not like others. Jinwoo's words hung in the air like a challenge. The small whisperling was no longer trembling with fear. Instead, he stood next to Taeho with something that looked almost like pride. His large dark eyes moved from student to student, no longer avoiding their gaze. This changes everything, Yujin said quietly from her seat. If Jinwoo is correct, if humans genuinely possess cross-species protective instincts, then our entire understanding of predator-prey relationships needs to be reconsidered. Professor Kethavar set down his datapad and looked at Taeho with new interest. Young human, you realize what you are claiming? You are suggesting that your species has evolved beyond its basic predatory nature. I am not claiming anything, Taeho said. I am just doing what feels right. But what feels right to you is apparently unprecedented in galactic history, the professor said. No predator species has ever shown genuine protective behavior toward unrelated prey species. Mirei's crystalline skin had dimmed from bright orange to a softer yellow. She looked confused and slightly disturbed. This makes no sense, she said. If humans protect weak species, how did they become dominant on their planet? We did not become dominant by destroying everything else, Taeho said. We learned to share our world. Share? Dongwu asked. How does a predator species share with prey species? We set aside places where they can live safely, Taeho explained. We have laws that protect them from being hunted or harmed. Some humans spend their whole lives making sure these creatures have food and shelter. But what do humans gain from this? Hana asked. Taeho thought for a moment. Beauty, wonder, the knowledge that we are not alone in our world. These things have value too. Jinwoo tugged on Taeho's sleeve and looked up at him. Your world has many species? He asked in his careful galactic standard. Yes, Taeho said, smiling down at him. Millions of different species. They all share the planet with us, and humans protect them all. We try to, Taeho said. We do not always succeed, but we try. Jinwoo's eyes grew even wider. Your people must have very strong hearts. Professor Kethvar had been taking notes throughout this conversation. Now he stopped writing and looked directly at Taeho. I am going to make an official request to the Galactic Research Council, he said. This behavior pattern needs to be studied properly. I am not volunteering to be a test subject, Taeho said firmly. Not you, the professor said. Your species. We need to send research teams to Earth to observe human-animal interactions in their natural environment. As long as they go as observers, not as experimenters, Taeho said. Agreed, Professor Kethavar said. This discovery is too important to risk damaging the subjects. Mirei stepped closer to the table where Jinwoo and Taeho were standing. Her crystalline skin was now a soft blue color that Taeho had never seen before. Human, she said to Taeho, I owe you an apology. Taeho looked at her in surprise. What for? I assumed your species was weak because you showed concern for others, Mirei said. I understand now that this was not weakness. It was something else. Something we do not have a word for. Compassion, Taeho said. We call it compassion. Compassion, Mirei repeated slowly. To feel pain when others feel pain? To care about others even when they cannot help you, Taeho said. Jinwoo looked up at Mirei. For the first time, he did not flinch away from her presence. You understanding now? He asked her. Mirei knelt down so she was closer to Jinwoo's eye level. Her skin shifted to an even softer blue. I think I am beginning to understand, she said. I am sorry we frightened you. Jinwoo studied her face carefully. His empathic abilities were apparently telling him something different about her emotional state. You... Different now, he said slowly. Before was hunger. Now is... Curious? Yes, Mirei said. I am curious about you. About your people. I want to learn, not hunt. Professor Kethvar watched this interaction with fascination. Remarkable, he said. Jinwoo's empathic readings confirm that Mirei's emotional signature has changed completely. Changed how? Dongwoo asked. From predatory to something else, the professor said. I do not have a classification for what she is feeling now. Maybe, Yoo-jin said from her seat. We need new classifications. A new voice spoke from the back of the classroom. I agree. Everyone turned to see who had spoken. Near the door stood Hye-won, another human student who had been sitting quietly in the back row throughout the entire demonstration. She walked down toward the group around the table. Hye-won, Professor Kethvar said. Do you have observations to add? Yes, Hye-won said. She approached Jinwoo slowly, her movements careful and non-threatening. Jinwoo, my name is Hye-won. I am also human like Taeho. Jinwoo looked at her with interest. After a moment, he stepped slightly away from Taeho toward her. You have same feeling, he said. Same protector heart. We probably all do, Hye-won said. Most humans feel upset when they see others being hurt or frightened. Most? Professor Kethvar asked. Not all, Hye-won admitted. Some humans can be cruel. But our societies teach us that protecting others is good and hurting others is wrong. Your societies teach this? Yoo-jin asked. This is not just instinct? Both, Taeho said. We have the instinct to care about others. Our societies encourage that instinct and teach us to extend it beyond our own species. Dongwoo had been listening to all of this with a thoughtful expression on his massive face. Now he spoke up. On my world, we have stories about ancient times when my people worked together with smaller species. But those are just myths. Maybe they are not myths, Hye-won said. Maybe your people used to have these instincts too, but forgot about them. Perhaps, Dongwoo said slowly. Perhaps many species once had these instincts. Professor Kethvar was taking notes again. This suggests an entirely new field of study, he said. Cross-species empathy and protection behaviors. We may need to reconsider everything we think we know about evolutionary psychology. Jinwoo had been listening to this conversation with growing excitement. Now he looked up at Taeho with bright eyes. If humans protect others, he said, can humans protect whisperlings? What do you mean? Taeho asked. My people live in fear, Jinwoo said. Always hiding, always running. Many species hunt us for sport. If humans are protectors, can you help us? Taeho looked around the room. All the alien students were watching him, waiting to see what he would say. I do not know if I can speak for all humans, Taeho said, but I will do everything I can to help. And I will help too, Hye-won said. Mirei stood up from where she had been kneeling. Her crystalline skin was now a warm golden color. Perhaps, she said slowly, my people could learn from humans. Perhaps we could become protectors instead of predators. And my people as well, Dongwoo said. We are strong. We could use that strength to protect instead of to hunt. Yoo-jin smiled from her seat. This could be the beginning of something entirely new, she said. A galactic community based on protection and cooperation instead of predation and dominance. Professor Kethvar set down his datapad and looked around the room. Class dismissed, he said. I have a lot of research to plan. As the students began to gather their things and leave, Jinwoo stayed close to Taeho and Hye-won. Where do I go now? He asked. You go wherever you want to go, Taeho said. You are free. Free? No more demonstrations, Hye-won said. No more being used to scare you. You choose what you want to do. Jinwoo thought about this for a moment. Then he smiled, showing small white teeth. I want to stay with humans, he said. I want to learn about protector hearts. You can stay with us, Taeho said. We will teach you everything we know about protection. As they walked toward the door together, Mirei fell into step beside them. May I learn too? She asked. Of course, Hye-won said. Everyone can learn to be a protector. They left the classroom together, a small group that represented something new in galactic history. A human, a whisperling, and a Velkin walking side by side as equals and friends. Behind them, Professor Kethvar was already making calls to research institutions across the galaxy. The discovery of human protective instincts would change everything they thought they knew about predator and prey relationships. But for Taeho, Hye-won, and Jinwoo, the most important change was much simpler. They had found each other, and they had learned that protecting others was not a sign of weakness. It was the greatest strength of all.